It seems like sometimes there's a sacrifice between duty over love. So if we look at Prince Charles, for example, then it seems that the woman he loved, he wasn't allowed to be with, and then he went on to marry Di, and then all this other stuff happened. Do you think that's a correct interpretation?
No, I don't think it is at all.
Okay, let's
I
hear what the truth
absolutely
is
don't
then.
think it all is. There was no prospect of Prince Charles marrying Camilla Shand. Camilla was in love with Andrew Parker Bowles and was determined to get him, and did.
Mm.
Prince Charles was only a fling because Andrew Parker Bowles was having a fling with Princess Anne. So, and Camilla was determined to nail him, and she did. So there was no prospect of her marrying Prince Charles in those days. She didn't even want to marry him. I mean, where people get these sort of narratives from, I'd love to know.
The Crown?
Oh, please. I think it should be called the throne. But it rarely is the thing that everybody sits upon in the morning and then flushes. Because it's beautifully done. It's in terms of production, artistry, costume, writing, etc. It's magnificently done. So as a writer, I can look at it and say it's really well done. My God, as I said, it should be called the throne, not the crown. Because what it purveys is what people normally do on thrones.
So just to, if you could clarify a little bit more on that subject then. So Camilla wasn't in love with Charles, but Charles was trying to woo Camilla back then. Is that?
Oh no,
they
had a fling.
They had a fling.
They had a fling, but it was just a fling, and he was upset that as one is. But then you move on, and he moved on, and there were several girls he wanted to marry thereafter. But I had friends who could have married Prince Charles or other members of the royal family, because we're all contemporaries. And I remember I was very friendly with a certain girl who one of the princes wanted to marry. And she said, I'd sooner die than marry into the royal family. She said, all that ribbon cutting, God forbid. And, another friend of mine who is a princess who was mooted as a bride for Charles, she made sure she ran off with someone to prevent the marriage. And Anna Wallis did the same thing. Anna Wallis, to make sure that Charles wouldn't revisit the situation, married Johnny Hesketh. So, well-bred girls, unless they were very ambitious, and unless they liked the attention, which Diana did, they did not want the role. And they didn't get the role. So, I've forgotten the rest of the question.
Okay, so if Charles and Camilla's relationship was as tenuous as you described back then, how did it rekindle into what it has become today?
Oh, okay. Well, they had genuine affection between each other, and Charles was having grave difficulty finding somebody who would accept him, because there are a host of girls, as I just said, who he wanted to marry and he mooted the idea of marriage with, and they fled in the opposite direction. So he and Camilla then, because her marriage had not worked out exactly the way she hoped, because Andrew Parker Bowles was very dashing and a great swordsman. And he knew how to duel brilliantly and often. And of course, this caused her a great degree of misery. And she and Charles rekindled their romance. But he also had other amitié amoureuses, because he had Dale Tryon, Lady Tryon, who again was somebody I knew slightly. And so, it wasn't anything serious. And in those days, it's not like now. We live in a very puritanical age where, I keep on hearing young people say, oh, I'm going out with somebody, and if they look at somebody or kiss somebody or God forbid they should do naughties with somebody, that's the end of it. I mean, in my day, my dear, until the wedding ring was firmly on your finger, you were definitely not putting yourself on the shelf. And people used to dabble. I mean, that was the done thing in those days. And if you didn't, really, it usually was because nobody wanted to dance with you. Let's put it that way. So that was the second time around. Then he met Diana. And she actually was the initiator of the whole thing. And she knew what he would like because he'd been out with her sister Sarah. And she pressed his buttons brilliantly. And I actually used to laugh with friends of mine and say, oh, no, you're going about it all wrong. If you want to marry the guy, take a leaf out of Diana Spencer Wales's book. The way to do it is pretend to love everything. And, oh, I think you're so wonderful. I just love Balmoral. Balmoral is the most wonderful place on earth. And as soon as the wedding ring is on the finger, Balmoral? Are you crazy? You think I'm going up to that godforsaken place? I mean, really? But she shouldn't have done it because it disillusioned him, because he thought he was marrying a sweet, obliging, lovely girl. And it turned out he'd married a very demanding, dominating. She was only 20, but she was extremely dominating. She is the one who had absolute say over the furnishing of Highgrove. Even before they were married, she was giving input into Highgrove. And, she used to say that, she was training him up to be exactly what she wanted. And there came a point, this is my opinion, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. There came a point before the birth of Harry, or around the birth of Harry, when Charles decided, if I continue constantly compromising myself to make this marriage work, I will disappear as an individual. And at that point, he pulled back. And he then, for the next 2 years, if I remember correctly, I mean, we're going back a long time now. For the next 2 years, he had a monastic life. And then he discovered that Diana had had an affair with her private detective, Barry Manakee. And it's at that point that a mutual friend reconnected him with Camilla. So for the first, say, 5 or so years of the marriage, maybe 6, trying to figure out how long it was, he had no contact with Camilla whatsoever. Very occasionally, they would be at a large party together. They'd be across the room, and they purposely kept away from each other. She wanted to give them his marriage every chance to succeed. He wanted to give his marriage every chance to succeed. But there comes a point when if you compromise any further, you will compromise yourself out of existence. And Charles was a very spiritual person. He was also in therapy, and he wanted Diana to be in therapy because Diana had a serious eating disorder as well as several other emotional problems, which had made the marriage basically untenable. And he wanted, and not only he, his father, his mother, they had psychiatrists and psychologists and psychotherapists one after the other, trooping through Kensington Palace, and Diana refused to nibble until later on down the line, when she decided she wanted help, then she got it. And that was what made the difference. But by then the marriage was over. So that's really how it went.
The Crown certainly didn't show that. So thank you for setting the record straight.
Well, of course it wasn't going to. Peter Morgan is very Republican, and their advisor, Robert Lacey, has been anything but what I would regard as consistent, because in his latest book, Brothers at War, in the hardcover version, he has that pink is pink. No, actually, he doesn't. He has that pink is green, and in the second, now latest version, it's green is green and pink is pink. But he completely disagrees with himself. So they push a very irresponsible, in my view, and very theatrically valuable and dramatic point of view that is detrimental to the interests of the Crown. And they don't care. To them, they don't have a responsibility to the living, breathing people or to the nation. As far as they're concerned, if they can undermine the Crown and make a whole load of money, they've done well. And if they don't undermine the Crown and make a whole load of money, they've done equally well.